Welcome back to the Budding Author Podcast with me, Simon Ward, your host. Today we are talking to NJ, and NJ is Dr. Spooky. Hi, NJ.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure indeed. We were just having a chat before we came on air. You are a bit of a fruitcake, aren't you? You're lots of smiles, aren't you?
A little bit. You caught me.
It's good to have a little bit of madness in you, isn't it? I think it helps.
Oh, yeah. It makes you much more entertaining, too.
Yeah, that's it. And you work in ER, which must be sort of quite hard, up and downs and that sort of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I saw a meme that said the ER, there's somebody holding their father for the last time, and in the next room, you're pulling a remote out of somebody's ass. So that's a circle of life.
And that is the world. So, given the seriousness and the training that you go through to be a doctor and work in ER or A&E, as we would say in the UK, writing for you, has that been a long time passion, or is it escape for you?
So I did dabble with writing whenever I was in college, but I never showed anybody because I felt like very imposter syndrome-y. But with the COVID pandemic, I needed an outlet because I was going nuts. And so I started writing because I realized how short life was. I'd always wanted to write a novel. It was on my bucket list. And through doing it, it was almost therapeutic. I got kind of a boost, it helped with the burnout. And then I thought maybe other people want to read this stuff.
Yeah. It's like a change is good as a rest is in some respects. And the thing is, if you're in an environment that can, in all honesty, be very stressful, sitting yourself down to write and sort of entering into a whole new world sort of makes perfect sense. But I would think that would be for sort of like a romantic world, a science fiction world, but you've chosen horror. So why did you choose the horror genre?
I've always loved horror. Even as a kid, my mom got me into it very early. Like one of the first movies I ever watched was Alien. So I've just, yeah, I mean, come on, how can you go bigger than that? But so I've always just really enjoyed it. And I think that it's almost kind of a dichotomy because, horror is obviously very terrifying and scary. But then there's the other side of the coin where you see people doing, great things. There's love and things like that. So I don't think it's completely black and white.
Well, that sounds good. What's your process? Are you sort of you just splurge and just attack it all, or are you a plotter? Do you plot as you go?
I'm not a plotter. I'm horrible. Like you would have been horrified in medical school. I would just shove all of my papers in my bag without like a folder. There was no highlighters. Like it was bad. So I am a 100% pantser. I mean, I have an idea. Like I know where the idea is going to go, but I sit down and it's as much of a surprise to me as anybody else, probably.
Well, you've got to let the characters take over, haven't you? The characters take over and run the story. My first couple of novels were sort of very much pantser, and then I started sort of plotting a little bit more. And I think that's as writers progress, they do start to sort of go the plotting route. Obviously, Stephen King has sort of stayed on the pantser side, and he's doing quite well, I hear.
Our patron saint of pantsers.
That's it. Yeah. I think so. But with a horror, are you setting up a premise? You're setting up a premise and just putting your own twists in it as you go, or what's your way you're doing that?
I mean, yes and no. Often the twists even happen without me realizing it. I'm writing it, and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty messed up. Who thought this up? I'm like, oh God, that was me, wasn't it? I need therapy. But Yeah, I just find the entire process pretty enjoyable, other than like the 20th round of editing. That process I
Yeah.
can't handle.
Yeah, editing's a little bit tough. Um, as far as the process of writing, like with one of my first, Finding Love in 2045, it's this romance that's going along quite nicely, and then it sort of jumps into my head, sort of like, well, actually, what if that wasn't the case? And then the twists start coming, and then as you edit more, you sort of think, well, actually, I bet that's a twist and a twist. So a double twist is was my sort of, I loved in it with that. But as a horror writer, how do you make people jump? Which is the horror thing, or is it
Ooh.
gore?
I lean into the gore quite a bit. Yeah. I mean, working in the ER, that's pretty much all you see all day. It's bodily fluids from whatever orifice, blood, guts, uh, lots of little bugs you don't want to see in real life, unfortunately.
The so the experiences you've got have sort of helped you to sort of, you're describing things you've seen, probably, almost, obviously not specifically people and that sort of thing, but you're sort of recreating some of the horrors that you've seen, perhaps. Would that be true?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one thing to see something on TV when it's special effects or CGI or whatnot, but whenever you're in the trauma bay and you're watching somebody's, brain fall out of their skull, like that's something that kind of sticks with you, but you can you can definitely, take that and put your spin on it and put it on the page, and I think it makes it more unique just because like that's firsthand something I've experienced.
Well, I think that would be, I think, therapeutic to sort of get that down and sort of talk that through.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's, and they also say with writing, say read what you know or write what you know, and so that sort of fits into your world. How I came up with a terrifying story, going back some years, it was a Create 50 competition, and they asked me to write a twisted story, and in that I've taken that short story that was very graphic, and put it into Time to Click, which is like a forerunner to my Awakening series. And in that one, without giving away too much, a guy gets his dick chopped off. So
Yeah,
with
I want to read that one.
you want to read that one? That's
yes.
Time to Click is sort of gruesome. It's the lead character is a guy. Some of my sort of beta readers and some book clubs that have read it and that sort of thing, they end the book and say, I'm not sure whether we like him or not, the main character. And it's like, well, it's one of those. Some people say no, he's okay, and some people say, oh no, he deserved what he got, sort of thing. And I think from my point of view, I think he's a guy that's trying to do his best and makes a few bad decisions. I think he's probably it.
I find characters like that to be more interesting anyway. You don't want some just goody two shoes, perfect kind of human. You want somebody that's flawed.
Yeah, that's it. It's more real then. It's more real, and yeah, you should read that. Time to Click. It's you'll love it. It sort of starts off with sort of more sort of modern day, and then it sort of goes into the start of sci-fi. So future, it's like my sci-fi books are sort of futuristic more than sort of into aliens territory and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the Fatal Mind that's coming out in October of yours.
Absolutely. So this would be my sophomore novel, and essentially it follows three separate people, but it's about a neurologist who invents these inhibiting chips that she implants in people's or patients' skulls. And the idea is it inhibits the impulses that cause like horrible migraine headaches.
Okay.
Except the side effects inhibit other things like impulse control and sometimes the good parts of people, and it allows the bad to take over. So the side effects could be murder, you might say.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a bit like even my sort of work is sort of sci-fi dramas mainly and dark romance. But when you're talking about that in Awoken, the final part of the Awakening series, we have brain computational interfaces, so BCIs, sort of mind computer sort of chips in the head and that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
all kind of challenges. Quite often I talk to people about procrastination, but I think you have quite a busy world, don't you?
You might say that.
You're involved in a podcast, aren't you? The Scream Kings podcast.
I am.
Get that.
So I am along with my friends Max and Nathaniel. So Max he's kind of into the occult. He's our demon expert. Whereas Nathaniel, he's also a horror author, and he is also a high school English teacher. But we essentially, interview other horror authors. We watch horror movies.
So similar to my show, really.
Yeah.
But just specifically for the horror. We sort of mix it round a bit on here. We sort of have all sorts. I should mention to people that they can subscribe and like and comment. That's what I always forget to tell people to do. So that's so. As confidence as a writer, where's your biggest challenge? You mentioned imposter syndrome earlier.
Yeah, I would say my biggest challenge is probably taking criticism. And I think a lot of that kind of comes from like my medical training and education, just because, I mean, sometimes people aren't the nicest, whenever you make a mistake, especially in training, which is, I mean, it's fair because people's lives are on the line. So it's, I think I've been conditioned to, like, when I do get criticism, I'm like, you idiot. Oh, come on. But like, I have to take it and be like, oh, this is actually good. This is how I get better. That's the thing I still struggle with quite a bit.
Yeah. I think book sales as well. How have the sales gone for you?
They've gone well. Yeah.
They've gone well.
Yeah.
I always find that's a challenge. Whenever I always think I should be getting more.
I mean, we all want more.
It's all to go out there, isn't it? I think as far as criticisms, I think I've been quite lucky, really. I haven't really had a bad review. Maybe that's because I haven't had enough. Maybe need more. Encourage people to read my books and give me bad reviews. That'll be better. Like, a bad review is better than no review, isn't it?
That's true. It means somebody read it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Are you focusing through Amazon for your sales, or are you doing like book clubs and things like that?
Mostly Amazon, but I do a lot of like local, cons or author events. I even have one coming up this Saturday. One of the places I actually sell the most is one of our local bookstores called Tales of a Bookworm. It's very big into the, indie horror, and you can adopt kittens at the same time at the store. So
you like cats, don't you?
I do. Would you like to see one of my cats right now?
How many cats have you got?
That's Theodore. I have 2.
Every time I go near a cat, it scratches me. I think I'm getting nervous now.
You have a scratchable face, I guess.
No, it's my legs. I can remember a cat sort of put their paws up onto my leg, and it's like, oh, this is nice, and I was stroking it, and it was like, oh, this is really nice, and then it dug its claws into my leg.
He was happy, very happy.
Yeah, that's not the kind of way I enjoy happy, really.
Some people pay good money for that kind of treatment,
That kind of torture. It is a weird old world, isn't it? It's a weird old world. I'm just thinking now how realistic this is. I know this could be a flaw, and why I'm raising it now, I don't know. But there is a character in one of my books who was a medical student, and had a problem with a catheter. With she had to insert a catheter, and then she had to remove it, and she had problems removing it, and pulled it all the way out incorrectly.
With the balloon still inflated?
Yeah. Does that sound realistic?
It does, actually.
It I did sort of research it as we do, sort of thing. But I mean that'd be quite a bad mistake, wouldn't it?
Yeah, people like patients will do that often if they're confused. They have a catheter and they'll yank it out, and it does not go well.
Not a medical student, though.
I'm sure it's happened.
Within your writing, AI, has that sort of been something that you've sort of considered within your writing or within the editing process?
So, not for me personally. I actually just learned what like Chat GPT was like last week. So no, not really. Although I will use like it to write an email to sound eloquent, but yeah, not for like my creative writing pursuits.
Yeah, I think that's because that's perceived to be a threat, isn't it? That AI, people just using AI to just write a book and throw it out there.
Yeah,
that's sort of quite a threat to the industry.
You think that they would be a little bit better with AI. I mean, like they can't even get the fingers of the hand correctly, like in these AI pictures. So yeah, exactly.
Oh dear, that is awesome. The editing process, you say, that's sort of one of your challenges. How do you go about that?
So the first draft, obviously, I just get it all out there. I don't self-edit, and that's been a bit difficult for me to do, but that's the way it goes. And I essentially just make multiple passes through the work, give it to my editor, get feedback, make more passes, give it to my editor, get more feedback. And it's in the back and forth with the editor in which I get a bit burnt out, because it's just like you almost get word blind reading your own stuff, Yeah.
Do you use beta readers?
I do,
Or just go. I was going to say, or just go through your editor. The is it a personal friend, the editor, or are you paying for the editing?
So I actually got my editor through Pit Dark on Twitter. Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's a pitch event. I think they do it twice a year. And the idea is you have 12 hours, and each hour you have a new pitch or a tweet, and you pitch your book. And if an editor or publisher, agent, whatever, likes your tweet, then you're invited to submit your manuscript. Okay. And that's how I ended up getting The Broken Heart published, because I pitched that, and my editor, Michael Dolan, liked it. And he's like, I like where your head's really messed up. Let's go with this.
I think what is it with people on that the response I got to my Twisted story, sort of people are like, I was crossing my legs while I was reading this. It's like
that's a good one too, though.
Yeah, that's good. Maybe I should step back into horror. I think for me, I didn't really sort of pick a genre in my head. So my first two novels were not really sort of targeted at a specific reader. It was just a story I had that I wanted to tell.
Yeah.
That was sort of a story that sort of developed as they do. But it wasn't sort of like, oh, I'm definitely pigeoning this for a specific area. It's only later that I found out that actually it's dark romance, which is so I've now sort of got a hole to put it in, as it were.
Yeah.
So that was part of the difficulty. So editing is probably your biggest struggle, as you say, because the multiple passes. Wouldn't it be great to just pass it to an editor and say, just sort all that out for me, and and that'd be good.
Just take it and get it away from me, fix it, and let's go.
That's it. I think we get emotionally tied up within it, and when you go through multiple passes, you've got to still be loving the story. But I mean, as you say, a bit word blind, really. That's the tricky one. At what point did you start advertising?
I think a lot of it was almost unintentional advertising because like on Twitter, you follow me obviously, and you know that I like to be a bit of a menace and, memes and things like that. So I almost just I lead with my authentic self, I guess. I try not to bombard people too much with buy my book, and I think that being kind of organic about it helps, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's where I struggle. I think I'm very direct with people. It's like if I see something I like, I'll just say I like that, and I can't sort of. So if I'm trying to sell a book, I'll be like, buy my book. Buy my book, you'll like it. It's all right, yeah. And,
hey, it works, right?
So yeah, I think that's the challenge. The softer sell is sort of the other thing. What's your guilty pleasure then, NJ?
Oof. Probably reality TV. I absolutely adore trashy reality TV.
Oh dear. You've not been watching any of this Married at First Sight, have you? You've not seen any of that garbage?
I haven't watched that one particularly, but I have seen 90 Day Fiance. I love anything on Bravo, like Real Housewives. And you know what? We're actually watching. Have you heard of Ladies of London?
Ladies of London? No, I haven't seen that. Is that reality show? Is it?
Yeah, it's over. It already wrapped up filming. I think it takes place in London in 2012, 2015, and it follows.
Okay, yeah.
It follows an affluent group of ladies like Carolyn Stanberry. I don't know. Yeah. I just like watching rich people fight, I think.
Yeah, I think things like that Married at First Sight, we saw a bit of, you get drawn into it, don't you? And you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got to get to the end of this series and then I swear I'm not going to watch it ever again. And that's...
I just find it, I think it's because I have to be engaged at work all day. My brain is going. So I want to come home and just rot it. I don't want to have to think. It's just.
Yeah, I know what you mean. As my sort of breakaway, we started watching Modern Family. I don't know whether you've seen that.
I've seen a few episodes, yeah.
Yeah, we've started watching that from the first episode of the first series. I think we're somewhere around series 6 at the minute. That's our chill out sort of bit of comedy. But before we finish, I wanted to talk about who's your champion and how is your writing perceived at work for you? Do people at work all buy your books and support your work?
Oh yeah, they're freaking awesome. They're probably I probably need to pay them honestly for advertising for me. Actually, yesterday, one of the newer nurses that we had bought 2 of my books and brought them in for me to sign. Yeah, they're great. And the lab people, actually, the people that work in the lab are real big fans. They turn out they're real sickos there, and I love them.
I love it, your style. I'm gonna have to have a look at these and have a read myself. I think would you say that's your biggest champion through work, or is there another champion that's really waving a flag for you?
I'd probably have to say my wife, actually. She is insanely supportive. She goes with me to cons and local events, and she probably sells me better than I sell myself, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I think self-promotion is always quite difficult, I think.
It is, because you don't want to seem arrogant, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the word? Yeah.
I think that's people refer to me as very confident, and I think generally I'm quite confident, but throwing yourself out there to sell your own books is difficult. But I have have an author tour coming on. I'm visiting libraries in September. So that's going to sort of take me well outside my comfort zone and selling books to the public on that. That'd be crossed me over. And then I think book fairs and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the way to go. To sort of improve my the traction locally, I think is my next step.
Absolutely.
So how do we find the Screaming Kings podcast before we finish?
So you can, wherever you listen to your podcasts, but our website is the screamkingpodcast.com. Actually, I'll have to tell you for sure because now I can't remember, but I will tell you.
Our Scream Kings pod.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. And
God
we've
bless.
got your links. So we'll pop your links in the description so people can check out NJ's work. And I'm definitely going to have a look. I've got a list I've been getting through, and I'm sort of getting towards the end of it now. So definitely, I think some of your sick horror is going to be perfect for me.
I hope you love it.
That's it. And final thing, any movie hopes, or is that not anything that you're looking at for the minute?
Oh, I have already have a headcanon of the Broken Heart book. I've already mentally cast Kate Siegel, from Haunting of Hill House is Casey Phillips. So, I mean, I'm just waiting. Yeah.
Nice one. We'll leave it there. Thanks very much, NJ. It's been great to have you on the show. The Budding Author podcast. Everybody watching, like, comment, and subscribe. It's on audio podcast as well as here on YouTube, unless you're listening to the audio version, and then it's also on YouTube. Nice one.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely. That is lovely. Thanks very much. Cheers, everybody. Thanks.